Welcome to Empowered, Mind-Body Inspiration. The mind is the map to wholeness, wellness, health. The heart is the key to genius and inspiration. Join me and my guests as we explore how to release and rewire into who you truly are, unique, whole, and empowered. Please like, share, and subscribe. Spiral up, spiral out. Welcome, everyone. Today we have Dominique Brightman. Dom is a certified self-leadership expert from Baltimore. Thanks to his love of books, he refers to himself as a bookcaster. He is a best-selling author of 3 books, and his most recent book, Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy, came out in the fall of 2020. Dom has his own story of transformation and is a beautiful personal mantra: advance others to advance yourself. I'm excited to have him on Empowered. Let's see how this spirals out. Welcome, Dom. I'm so excited to have you on Empowered.
Oh, I'm excited to be with you too. The Dr. J is in the busy for shizzy. That's right, with all the spirals, baby. We're going up north spiral style today. I love it.
Yes, I was trying to come up with a symbol for my podcast, and at 3 a.m. I woke up, with that intuitive, it should be a spiral. And then I was up for 2 hours after that. I was so excited because, yes, it just resonated. And I have a friend who painted quite a few of them, so each guest could have a color. And I'm just kind of excited by it. It makes me happy.
Oh, sweet. So that happens when you get to like over 1,000 guests. Does that mean over different 1,000 spirals?
Well, right? I've learned how to mechanically change them on.
There you go.
Pretty handy.
You might run out of house, right?
Yeah. I'm driving my friend crazy, let's say. I'm like, I have to switch this up. So, Tom, tell us your story. You wrote your first book at 23, which must mean you were pretty inspired to do that. And you're such an avid reader. What made you this person that I see in front of me?
Well, it's people like you sharing your wonderful platforms with other people and allowing their words to inspire the masses because, like, one of the things I like to say is that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here. Like, heck, thanks to the pandemic and us being extra sedentary, even though we're getting out of that thing, moving close to getting out of it, kind of sitting on the shoulders of giants because I was actually wrote my first book on a dare, funny enough. It was actually a dare from a wonderful lady at this Toastmasters event. And for those who don't know Toastmasters, it's this nice organization, nonprofit, where people get to practice public speaking and become a better leader. So you get this nice little sandbox and how to practice and become a better leader. Because the good thing is, in a regular company, if you get a manager position, they like to tie in leadership with it. Like if you screw up, something might metaphorically, or depending on the occupation, might blow up for real. As opposed to Toastmasters, like if you metaphorically press a button and then everything explodes, and then instead of flowers coming out, it's like people just being mad at you. It's okay. It's okay. We're all in the same boat together in a volunteer organization. So basically getting that wonderful experience, reading a bunch of books on personal, professional development after my wonderful year of 2012, where we had one of those classic end time prophecies when all that really happened is that they predicted that we were going to lose Twinkies for a month. That's really all that happened in the US of A. So lack of Twinkies, but extra abundance of personal growth. And through that personal growth, joined Toastmasters, being that wonderful lady who actually dared me to write a book. And funny enough, what prompted the dare was the fact that I had these wonderful reading lists where people called the 100 books are dynamic living. Because up to that point, I set a goal for myself to read at least 50 plus books a year. And I just went in, it's like, you know what? This will be a great way to set myself apart here. Because in this wonderful space of noise and red ocean as opposed to blue ocean, it's like, hey, let me set myself apart here. Instead of handing out business cards, I handed out reading lists to people. And with my contact information at the bottom. And then the lady at the beginning of this part of the story, she looked at the list, looked right back at me, looked at the list, looked right back at me, and asked me where the heck my name was on this list. And I was like, I don't know. I'm 20 something. I'm 23 here. I don't really have a book yet. What the heck am I going to write about? Yeah, it was crazy because, that was one of the dare apps. She's like, hey, how about a year from today? You write your book, and that way you can put yourself on the list. It'll be a happy ending, right? And I'm like, nah, it seems a little too intense. Like, what the heck am I going to write about in my early 20s? And then she upped the ante. You got to tell us a different kind of person there, because she was like, hey, how about we both publish our books a year from the day we both become published authors? And I'm like, nah, I'm good. You're too freaking intense, woman. I'm out of here. And a couple days later, did some soul searching, talked over with a buddy of mine who was a author himself, and he realized, oh, good. This is a great opportunity for me to get on your case, because he published a book of his own, and then at the end he said there's going to be a sequel. And me, I was extra gung-ho about reading back then, and they said there's going to be a sequel. Like, where's the sequel at? And he was like, it's on hold. I was in a different place back then. So he saw this as an opportunity to get on my case. He became one of my accountability buddies. And to build my accountability fire random times during random conversations, after taking up that woman's dare without checking on it, even though it was a couple of days late agreeing to it, there'd be selected people I would just tell, like, hey, I'm writing this book here. Because that's the thing about certain paths we take. We have to be careful of who we share our goals with. It's great to share your goals with other people, but it's better to share with people who help your dreams to fly, as opposed to those who want to stop you before you even take off. And one of the most beautiful things about that list is the fact that some of those people who I still know today were able to buy the book and they're happy about it. A couple of them became authors of their own, and some of the people, I met them once. I've never met them again since. So it's kind of interesting how that worked, and that kind of where the first book started, and really kind of how I got to where I currently am today with this wonderful conversation, sharing this wonderful time with your lovely smiling face.
It's so true, though, isn't it? That you have to be careful who you share your dreams with, because they can place, if you share it with the wrong person, doubt can be put into your mind right at the very beginning and shut it down. So you have to be very careful. So that you were careful with that. And then what was your first book about?
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I forgot to mention the title of the book. It's called Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself. And I like to call it my first entry into what I call the business of immortality. Because it's leaving a piece of yourself long after you're gone. Because one of the most beautiful things about this life is that if you lived it well enough, you can write about what you've learned and what you actually get to share with others. Like, one of the most beautiful things about fuck it, like I even heard a preacher say this before, is the fact that even though I'm not always a fan of this, is the fact that writing a book is a way of arguing your point without hearing the other person argue back against you.
Right? You can just put it all out there until maybe it's published, and then you might get some. But I love that title. So what spawned that? What made you want to write about that? Any stories of growing up or anything that really hit home that made you want to do that?
Yes. So one of the beautiful things about personal development nonfiction books, especially if you take the advice from the books and just about anything you read, like, one of the most beautiful things ever is that you eventually become a guinea pig, and a personal development, self-development guinea pig. And some of the things that I was doing that worked, I put it in the book, because in this era where authenticity is a buzzword and people aren't always a fan of those who fake it till they make it, especially when folks are ready, willing, and able with their BS detectors up, their antennas pointing all the way to heaven, is the fact that folks love authenticity. Folks want someone who's genuine. And the book itself is a bunch of self-help lessons that I've used in my own life to help me get promoted at my job, develop a higher level of self-confidence, and become an extroverted introvert, aka an ambivert. Because even though I recharge by being alone, I can still be a social butterfly and network with the best of them. And one of the most beautiful things about that, heck, even in one of the chapters, I mentioned how to develop a positive mental mindset, which I call the RAVE method, and that's RAVE, and that's reading great material, audio immersion, listening to great stuff like this. So the Empowered Mind, Empowered Health podcast, you're doing fabulous on the audio part. The visual stimulation, subscribing to Jayne's channel while you're at it too, if you want to look at some wonderful pictures while you listen to this wonderful podcast. And then the E is encouragement, encouraging yourself and other people. Because if someone's living and breathing, they need encouragement. Because as I was growing up, I always needed encouragement every now and then because I wasn't good at making friends back then. Like, again, the whole introverted thing, I was like the full-blown introvert where you're lucky to get a word out of me, but sometimes if you get me out of a show, that yeah, it's basically the fun-loving Dom has always got a smile on his face and loving to communicate with others. And that's really one of the most beautiful things about learning is the fact that you're also discovering as you go when you apply it to your own life. And when you apply things to your own life and you journal it, you're basically taking your work and sharing with someone else in hopes that it'll help them to do the same, if not create a better version of what they want for their lives. And that's the thing. Like, we all have this wonderful radio station that we're tuned into 24/7, no matter how helpful we are. And that's WIIFM. What's in it for me? And a lot of folks want to know what's in it for me. Well, this is what's in it for you. This is something from a person who is genuine, that generally wants to help people, who wants to just share some lessons in hopes that it'll help better yourself. And if it doesn't, that's A-okay. There's millions of books out there for you. There's millions of other coaches, speakers, and all that other wonderful good stuff out there that may not be a good fit. And if we are a good fit, that's great. I can be the square that goes inside of your square peg, like square peg in a square hole. If it's a circle hole and I'm a square, then it's A-okay. I'll find a circle for you. In this case, I'll find a spiral for you.
Right? I find I've grown the most out of my darkest places because you have to dig deep at those times. And you were shy. I would never know it looking at you now. But how did you learn to come out of that shell and be the force you are today?
Oh yeah. Coming out the shell, it involved imagining myself as a turtle and slowly coming out. And then once one leg was out, then the other leg was out, I realized, wait a second, I'm actually a penguin. And then when I realized I was a penguin, I became I was the best with you. That's not what
I like, for real? Good work.
I was messing with you. No, I was just seeing how long I could go with that one. No, but seriously, though, one of the things I picked up was walking slowly through the crowd. And, of course, in the BC before COVID era, it's a lot easier. We're just going into a random place, networking event, heck, even with the day job as a public librarian serving the public, is just learning people's names, seeing how I can help them and assist them with what they are looking to accomplish. And that's one of the keys to really just networking, especially as an introvert, making it all about the other person as opposed to making it all about you, because that's how you advance others to advance yourself, is when you think about how you can help other people. Because in this life, as the late great Zig Ziglar said, is that you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. And if they want is peace, love, happiness, and maybe some hair grease, then hey, hook them up with that hair grease and happiness. And just really just learning about what other people want, because heck, even one of the other things about the introvert's edge is the fact that we tend to listen more and take in more before we actually show our entire hand, because we don't want to put ourselves all the way out there. And it's like, hey, what the heck you're doing? It's like basically putting your raw thoughts on social media and having to put your shield up because, oh crap, they're coming after me. The trolls are coming after me. And just realizing that, hey, not only focusing on the other person, seeing how you can help them out, then actually delivering on that promise, especially as quick as possible if you know somebody that can help them out or helping them with the situation. And then also continuing to listen to other people, and heck, even listening to yourself and being aware of your own energy too. And that way, also focusing on the bigger picture too, because one of the major things that I've learned is that my silence won't do anyone any good at times. Like the person listening right now, you may have a powerful story to share, but you won't advance because you're still silent. And sometimes silence is golden, but sometimes silence will actually silence your advancement and it'll put it on pause when we're supposed to be purposefully moving forward. So that's the other thing too, is just knowing the whys that, hey, my voice can help other people and it's bigger than me and this entire world is bigger than me. And I'm really serve someone who's definitely bigger than me, who's got the whole world in his hands. So that's really what it was all about, just coming out of that shell and realizing like, hey, I can be the best tuxedo wearing penguin ever.
It's kind of a strange thing, right? Because we've been taught that to succeed, we almost need to be selfish, when in fact, it's actually the opposite. Like service to others actually opens so many doors and opens your heart and just leads you to where you need to go and expands you.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Expand yourself, not the waistline, even though that's easier said than done, but expand your mind.
Right?
Yeah.
So what a cool name too for your first book. And so Going North.
Oh, yeah. That's
And
right.
is that like linked to True North? Is that the meaning of it? And then with all these gems inside of how to do that.
Oh, well, there's so many things linked to it. Funny enough, it actually started off as a joke because I'm sure someone's asked you at least once before, how's it going, Jade? And you're like, oh, I'm doing well, doing good, doing increasingly better. And one day, when my colleague asked me that, I decided to just be my literal self and use a corn cob and say, hey, I'm going north. And another one of my colleagues like just busted out and laughed because she was so not expecting that. And the person who asked me, she was like, oh, okay. And then just walked away because she wasn't expecting it. And
well, when things are going like upside down and backwards, sometimes we say it's all gone north, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Especially as kids when they say, hey, if you dig deep enough, you'll reach China, right?
Yeah, that too. So it's a fun name too, then, right? Like it helps you laugh inside, and yet it's like helps people find their way to a place of somewhere up north.
Oh, yeah, because that was how it started. But yeah, it links to so many things. Heck, like you mentioned, your true north, like finding your true north. Heck, even also with Harriet Tubman as well, who helped a lot of slaves escape slavery and move up north. And with those two things, like, hey, upward mobility, upward motion, embracing your dreams while helping others to embrace theirs. Like, it's really all about that upward mobility and going north and not saying I am north or gone north or staying north, because the thing is, life is a journey, and yes, we want to reach our destination. We have plenty of many destinations on our way to the eventual required final destination we all have to reach eventually. Is that as we're going through life, we just need to embrace those many destinations on this journey of life and just keep heading north to where we want to go, or heck, even where the universe wants us to go. Because the thing is, sometimes we make plans and then God laughs at them, and then you realize, oh, I guess I got eaten by a whale, but hey, I guess I'll just go ahead and do that thing now. Hey, I feel fulfilled. I guess I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, right. It's called following the heart. Love it. And that's actually why I love the spiral too, because it means motion and, returning to a place with greater knowledge. So each time, you grow in introspection and change, and yet here you are again, maybe in the same place, but you're different,
Oh, yeah. That's right. Like the Dom of today is definitely different from the Dom of 5 years ago. Heck, even the good Dr. Jayne's a different Jayne than what she was 5 years ago. Because you didn't even
Yeah.
have this podcast 5 years ago. Probably
No.
didn't have the lovely office with all the spirals 5 years ago. You probably even have a higher level of confidence than what you were before.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of it. It's like it's interesting to look back. Now, the book Crappy to Happy. You share four surefire ways to achieve happiness. But I love the name because sometimes we do just feel crappy, don't we? When we're in that really messed up places that we can get ourselves into. So tell us
Oh,
about that book.
oh yeah. You're definitely right about the crappy part. It's like sometimes we feel like trees giving out number two pencils here. It's like, oh crap, this is a crappy day. But hey, we could definitely feel happy afterwards. And the lovely thing about that book is the fact that it's not just me, kind of like whole helping others sort of thing. That actually stemmed from two wonderful ladies who spearheaded the project, Ariel Patricia and Kat O'Keefe Kavanaugh. And excuse me. And those two wonderful ladies decided, you know what? We did a first book called Chaos to Clarity, and it was all about turning pain into power. And then it's like, you know, let's focus more on the humor side of life and considering the wonderful year of 2020. Folks like, oh, this is the perfect year for this book to come out. What's that? What's and the whole thing about multiple perspectives. Quick side was kind of interesting. They actually got pushed back about the title because apparently it's like, hey, why are you making fun of moments here? It's like, really? But anyways, but yeah, back to the main part of the story. It's a wonderful book where I contributed my story to the book, and heck, even talks about how the year 2012 was that not only the year that we lost Twinkies for a month, it was actually a paradigm shifting year because I was on path to getting my degree in IT and eventually going into that space and then becoming a network security guy and maybe doing some IT work. But there was a nice three-pronged attack that hit me at once that year where my father, who was a veteran in the U.S. Army as a paratrooper who had 2 combat jumps in World War II and even served in the Korean War, he was aging. And he went out for a drive and he ended up in some city that was about a good 30 to 40 miles away out of Baltimore, Maryland, called Silver Spring. And we're like, how the heck did you end up there? When we discovered that he had Alzheimer's and we had to take away his license because we couldn't have that happen again with him just driving out to some random place never to be found again. And the beautiful thing about that moment is the fact that he was still alive and I actually prayed for that moment. Like, that's the funny thing about it was he was gone for 36 hours, but right after I actually got on my knees and prayed, it was like 1 a.m. in the morning. Like, hey, like Lord, universe, whatever else, that can you help me find my dad? Next thing I know, we get a call like 1:14 a.m. in the morning, and Mom was picking up the phone all distraught and excited, and she didn't know what that was going on. And then I was able to pick up the other phone and realize, oh, Silver Spring, all right, this hospital here was able to recover him. We got the bad news, and then we just kept going. But we kept going all right because it led to a month later when I turned 21, I got into a car accident on my way to network security class. And I was like, wow, all right, this is one heck of a birthday gift. And to be honest, it's actually one of my favorite birthday gifts looking back over my life. Now, at the time, I hated it at the time, but looking back, it was one of my best gifts because a lot of folks in the helping space, they usually have a car accident story. And mine didn't involve me dying. So it's like, all right, this is good. Like on the way to class, went for a left turn. The darn car skidded into the curb. Lost the darn wheel off the car. Couldn't drive my car for a good month and a half. And not only that, actually had a part-time job at the library at the time. And my personal life was showing up in the professional life because my boss brought up all these things where I was screwing up with some miscommunication issues, forgetting certain duties here and there. And I'm like, wow, like, darn, like I was lacking some major levels of self-awareness back then into something that we all need to realize. Heck, even the Grim Reaper year that I probably already mentioned is that a lot of things became blurred. Like we tried to separate our personal and professional lives, but really, at the end of the day, it's still life. Both are going to intertwine and intersect every now and then. And it really showed that whatever's in the personal will show up in the professional. So after that, I realized, wait a second, let me go into the leadership section of the library, picked up a book by John Maxwell, The Five Laws of Leadership, and read that book, became a voracious reader, and really turned the crappy moments of realizing that, darn, I have to do more to help out my parents since they were aging, and getting into that car accident that actually became really just a way of reminding me that, hey, I still have some work to do. And the communication with the boss, where in my subconscious mind in the conversation, she mentioned the word leadership, because I had that job for 5 years at the time, and she was bringing in some new employees. And she was like, hey, they're going to be looking to you as one of the go-to people because you've been there for so long. And to be like, hey, you've been there for a while. You should probably know something. It's like, you're going to be a leader. And that word in the subconscious mind actually led to that section out of nowhere where it helped me to really discover self-leadership. And that was really the crappy to happy moment. And that's just one of 25 plus other stories in there of various times. Like, even since it was last year, there's even a story of a nurse in there who had to give some bad news about the whole COVID to a child. And heck, even one mom in particular finding out that her child became transgender without her even knowing it until a few years afterwards. And it's just so many stories in there from ordinary people who are actually relatable, because the other thing too, nowadays, people love relatable people, and internet and social media has made that happen. And if you can read stories from relatable people with stuff that you can relate to and realize that they can find some inspiration in some moments where it may not seem so inspiring at first, then you can turn your crappy moments into happy moments.
Right. And to realize that we've all gone through them, right? It's a human state. Nobody just suddenly becomes successful or suddenly becomes, plays the piano beautifully. Like, it all takes practice. And it all takes some crappy moments, because that's actually the kick in the butt, isn't it? Like, you have to choose to rise up or succumb to it. And usually when you dig deep, it makes you find the answers and the truth that are already in front of you. Like you said, like, the books were there. All you had to do was reach into the unconscious and ask for the right word, right? Which was leadership. And leadership suddenly became important to you that day because you were going to have to perform, right?
Oh, yeah. That's right. Definitely got to perform. I mean, we're all performing every day of our lives. I mean, heck, this is a performance from both angles with this conversational dance we're having, from to just the mom who's raising her kids, to the dad who may be raising his kids, to the job, to working from home even. Like, hey, you still got it. Even with your camera off, you still got to make sure you act like the camera's on, because you never know what's going on if there's a technical issue or whatever. So, yeah.
Right. So share one more story in that book, Crappy to Happy, that's inspirational. I actually really like, because I'm a homeopath and a naturopathic doctor, I find people come to me all the time with their stories that are really painful and difficult. And yet, after listening to a couple thousand, I realize we all have the common denominator of having crappy stories, right? It's like, it's kind of the human state. So I find it good to share with others that we all have them. And then it's nice just to hear stories that inspire us to pull out of that crappy place and learn and grow. And health is very connected to it too, because our body is a mirror of what's going on in our mind. So it all just ties together. But share a couple more stories with us. And then I want you to share there's 4 steps that you came up with in this book, Crappy to Happy.
Oh, yeah. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So another story. The beautiful thing is, it's a funny one, because our adversity can be an advantage. One of the ladies of spirit of the book, she shared a story about how she was on her way to the spiritual conference somewhere out in Utah or whatever, somewhere on the west coast of the USA. And usually she needs her glasses to read something, or she also has contacts as well. And she realized, like, as she was traveling, she had a late flight and everything, and she basically had probably next to no sleep. And when she finally arrived, she realized, hey, wait a second, I actually can see everything because she didn't have her glasses on at the time. And she was communicating with all these other wonderful people, sitting down in these wonderful circles with people, and was just communicating with other people. And she woke up the next day and she realized, oh, wow, like, I think I have a healing here. And because she could actually see. And she kept going and she told everybody that she met at the event that, hey, she had a healing and everything like that. And then the following day, after she woke up after having another fun day with the spiritual exercise, the spiritual practices, and she realized that her eyes were hurting, and she was like, oh crap, like, why are my eyes hurting? Like, I just had my healing here. Is this like a side effect? And then she realized that she still had her contacts in her eyes. Yeah.
That's the ability to see better. Right? Oh my goodness. So
yeah, until came time to publish that book, she originally said she wasn't ever going to share that with anybody because she was so darn embarrassed. But even I got a chuckle out of it because, like, we all can be so go, go, go and just assume that, oh, wow, like, this is freaking awesome. I'm healed. And really, it's just forgot to take the contacts out.
I call them speed wobbles.
Speed wobbles.
Yeah. You know, when you're going like she was, fast and furious, and then something happens, but it's like, don't know how that happened at all. It just did. So I love the term speed wobble. Awesome. So what are the 4 ways to go from crappy to happy?
Yes. So I kind of blew my load earlier with it because it was the RAVE method. So let's see if I can make a new acronym right on the spot.
No. Just review and then.
Sure.
We all need reviewing.
Well, you can say that again. Yeah, like it takes 7 times for somebody to sometimes get the message. Heck, even 9 times nowadays since the goldfish got his beat. With attention spans thanks to the zombie apocalypse device known as the smartphone. Oh man.
Yeah.
But so
RAVE.
Yeah, so they are reading great material. And you can tie that in with resilience because reading leads to a higher level of resilience depending on what you read, especially inspiring stories of other people.
Wait. But often if you ask, like you did, synchronistically, you'll find the right thing to read. I found that happen so many times in my life. You know, where a book just pops out and you're like, yes, that's the perfect thing for me right now, you know, or in so many ways, or someone will say to you, you should read this book, or, you know, you suddenly notice it on your own bookshelf. But so many ways it can happen intuitively. Okay. So
Oh, yeah, because you're definitely right about that reading part, because if I'm not mistaken, you're a big fan of the Biology of a Belief by Bruce Lipton, right?
Oh, it was, and I honestly don't even know where that book came from in my life, but it was one of the most important books I've ever read. And I read it young, so it really transformed my life.
Yeah, well, you said young like you're still not young. Come on now. We're all young until we're 90 years old collecting Social Security, if it still exists. Depending on where you are in a part of the world.
Or 18, something like that. Like, who reads that stuff at that age? But it's because of my own crappy time when I was a kid, right? I really wanted to figure out what this was all about, being here. So, yeah, biology of belief, because that was the big aha moment for me, that I connected the dots between what we think and what we are and what our physical health is, and they're all tied together.
That's right. It's like peanut butter and jelly.
Right? You can't have them without the other. So, and remind me what A stands for.
Yes, audio immersion, because,
Oh,
see, taste, hear, smell, all those wonderful senses. I gotta be able to hear great things that'll really help ourselves to expand and not really contract like that. Because one of the biggest things I love to do, especially nowadays, ever since listening to Dr. Allison J.K., is that she has these wonderful clear audio clearings and meditations where at night I listen to these things, and it's stuff from abundance to really feeling lighter and healthier. And it, like, listening to those, it's like reverse affirmations because what we hear is what we eventually become. What you listen to is what you eventually become. Like, heck, even I'm not sure if any of your listeners are familiar with the YouTube sensation, the Hodge twins, but back in 2012, 2013, I found them on YouTube, and I was listening to a bunch of their videos just for laughs and giggles. And I realized after a while, after talking with some people, I gained a country accent because they are two country twins from the southern part of the US of A. And and the country just got added to the way I was communicating and speaking with other people, even though I was raised up north all my life, even though both my parents are from south, but they never had those southern accents where they would drop certain letters at the end of words. That was never part of what they actually do from day to day. So audio immersion is important, making
and
sure you're careful what you listen to.
yeah. So you said something really interesting, and you mentioned the five senses because the unconscious mind, it records everything with the five senses. So we create circuits in our unconscious mind that become quite powerful, can be triggers to our emotions. But like you say, you can actually create circuits through sound and create good circuits, right? Things that can replace a circuit or help move you into a new reality, really. So you're saying do it through sound. And it's one of the most powerful of our five senses.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's like the classic stories of those blind samurais in Japan who would be more deadly than some of the samurais with sight because they may have lost their eyesight, but that made the body force more energy towards the stuff that was working. Their hearing, like if they can hear the footsteps, they can even hear the heartbeat of somebody. If they can feel the heartbeat and hear that, then that's really intense because that may even be more powerful than the eyesight. Because sometimes we may rely too much on our eyes to see what's going on in the world. It's like a metaphorical, like sometimes we keep ourselves in the metaphorical classic church with the stained glass windows because we see things through the way we want to see them, and we want to see that stained glass. When outside of the stained glass, there may not be something, it may not be as rosy or as negative as you may think or as positive you may think. It may just be somewhere moderately in the middle. So yeah, definitely sound is definitely powerful.
Right. And when you cut off some of the other senses, you're more in the moment and can actually connect into what you need to take in much better. Thus the samurai, right, that had lost their eyesight, much more connected to the nuances and the real listening. So that's a pretty cool example. So
Oh
what was
yeah.
next? V?
Oh yeah, visual stimulation. Funny how we went
Another
into
sense?
that
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the wonderful thing is our eyes definitely can take in so many images at once. Somewhere in the thousands, if not millions. I forgot the exact number. I have to re-look it up again later.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's the reason why you see a lot of logos, like with McDonald's, you see the two M's. You think of that before you see McDonald's at the end. Like Starbucks, you'll see the woman or the mermaid in the green. You'll imagine that as Starbucks. And with heck, even the Nike swoosh, like funny enough, heck, even I'm not sure if this is pre-recording or whatnot, but as you're telling me how you came with the spiral, it reminded me of that wonderful story in the book by Phil Knight's Shoe Dog, how they actually came up with the swoosh, and it all started really from Phil Knight's journeys out in Greece and just seeing all those statues, and then the swoosh came up to a person, like one of his staff members, in the middle of the night, like I think it was like 3 a.m. in the morning too. I think that's like the bewitching hour for
I think so.
magic too. This stuff happened. So when you were telling me that story of how he kept the spiral, that just reminded me and pointed me back to that story of how Nike got the swoosh. And it's like, just really, images stick, like stories stick more than facts, because stories, we love hearing stories, especially if it's with great detail and it's great coloring. Heck, even like I was jokingly earlier talking about how I was metaphorically coming out of a turtle shell to become a tuxedo wearing penguin. You're probably going to remember that again because it's so strange. And it's like, who the heck is this guy Jayne brought on today talking about a tuxedo wearing penguin turning into a tree and getting smoked on 420? Like, who is this guy? Because we have to be careful of what we put our eyes in front of. Heck, even I allude that to my martial arts training at one point, of seeing other people and practicing, adding it to what I do. Heck, even in grade school when I was trying to do a certain layup in basketball because I saw another kid do it when basketball wasn't my thing, because you don't want me playing basketball because I could barely dribble a ball. Like, but funny enough, a failure story. It was me and my buddies. It was like a 3-on-3. And every time I got the ball, I kept passing it to my buddies so that way they could shoot it. And they were like, "Hey, Dom, shoot the ball, man. We can't block." He's like, "Don't pass to me, man. Shoot the ball." I shot the ball. It was a big old air ball. Went way off the field. So that's why visual stimulation is definitely important, because you have to practice what you preach and see, and what we see is what we eventually become.
Yeah. And to realize, right, that it again is all stored in the unconscious. So to be very careful of what you put there. Some of it can't, some of it gets put there and we need to erase it or try to deal with it. But yeah, to be careful when you're consciously putting things in the unconscious, because it also records everything in sight, our background, all the details. It's an incredibly powerful brain machine.
That's right. The original computer, the best computer on earth when we use it.
Yeah, right. And then what's the fourth one? E?
Oh, yes, ma'am. The E is for encouragement, encouraging yourself and others. Because if you want to receive encouragement, you should give it to other people. Like, give random calls to people you haven't talked to in a while. Heck, even one guy I had on my podcast, he mentions how there's a lot of riches in our contact list, especially with people we probably haven't talked to in years, and just calling and say hi, see how they're doing, and just catching up with them, and they'll be pleasantly surprised. Like, "Man, I heard your voice today. I'm feeling better already." And sometimes people are legit like that, because heck, even an old friend of mine, he was like, "Man, like, I get my life together and I get a call from you." And I'm like, "Wow, like, life together? Like, what the heck happened?" And I'm like, dude, it's just really just the power of encouragement, because it's kind of like an ecosystem. It has to circulate. Encouragement is a circulation thing. It has to circulate. You have to give it to yourself, especially when we get up in the morning and we're at the point of our lives, is depending on where you are in life, of, oh man, it's like, man, I got to get up and go to this job I don't like just to pay these bills that I made, as opposed to really encouraging yourself to realize that, hey, my job is my partner to help me advance to what I actually want to do. It's a vehicle for my victory as opposed to a vehicle for my failure. So focusing and just changing your mindset, encouraging yourself, because we all need it. Because those who are great out there in the world, they have to encourage themselves to get out of bed first before they encourage the masses, and eventually it'll come back to you in random ways. It's kind of like good karma. When you put good stuff out there, karma rewards good activity. And of course, it rewards bad activity too, but let's focus on the good karma and do the things that'll help that good karma also circulate and spiral up.
Exactly. And the biggest gift you can give someone is to truly listen, isn't it? To really hear what they're doing, achieving, some of the low points, some of the crappy stuff, but to really listen is such a gift.
Oh yeah. Don't even have to unwrap it at times either.
Right? So very powerful. I love it. So this book came out in 2020?
Oh yeah, that's right. 2020, crappy to happy. October no less. One of my favorite months of the year, October. Fabulous book. Heck, even James Redfield, author of the Celestine Prophecy, actually wrote the foreword for the book.
Really? Oh, that's so
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
And how did that happen?
I guess it was just the wonderful Reverend Ariel Patricia just networking with other people and getting to know people in the spiritual space. Because in this day and age where there's so much information available to people and a lot of people tapping more into their spiritual sides and realizing that we're just spirits inside of bodies having an
Mhm.
earthly experience, even though we're divine beings, is that a lot of people are becoming more awakened to that. Folks are waking up to that. And really, just when you put the intention out there and you take enough action, like you'll definitely get what you seek. I mean, heck, even kind of like the classic law of attraction or the law of magnetism, if you prefer, when you write things down and you make it happen. Like a lot of, heck, even goals I've written down years ago manifested late. Like they may not have manifested in 2017, but they may have manifested in 2019. And it's just a fact of being grateful for what you have while seeking to advance and help other people. So I have to say it's probably just from putting yourself out there, networking with other people, believing in the wonderful art of divine compensation, because she actually linked me up with them too, and I was able to get him on my podcast last year too to help him promote his Celestine Vision community, which is still in the works. And it was just an honor. And I have to say, it's really just knowing what you want out of life, setting out that positive intention, and really just going for what you want out of life.
Yeah, so valuable. What you just said, there's so much in there. You could rewind, listen. It's so good. And they could find the book on
Oh
Amazon.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
anywhere.
ma'am.
Just type in the. We'll put it in the notes as well. I think I wanted to end with you give millennials some three things to live by. Can you share that with us? Because
Oh
that's
yeah,
very
definitely.
unique. Yeah, really. I love that.
Oh yeah, because school ain't gonna teach it to you. So the three skills millennials should focus on: communication, and communication can go into multiple ways. It's like a multiple ways. It's like a mind map, because with communication, you have to keep body language in mind, being able to read body language, public speaking, that will give you an edge nowadays. Also, written communication, you can't put emojis everywhere when you're talking to everyone. It's cute, but it's not going to work all the time because
Right.
writing leads to wealth. So there's communication, the written word, the spoken word, and heck, even the body word out of nowhere. And skill number two, financial literacy. Definitely financial literacy, because another thing school ain't going to teach you to, because the teachers, they don't pay the teachers. And most of the teachers are living paycheck to paycheck broke and forced to do extra jobs during the summer just to make ends meet. And they need to stay alive. So financial literacy, definitely the second thing, because there's nothing wrong with money at all. It's actually neutral. Like a lot of people go with the classic training of, hey, money's the root of all evil. Like, hey, read the entire darn verse and then the entire book. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. So there's nothing wrong with getting money. Just consider it an energy exchange for you helping someone else out. And the third thing is networking, especially with high value people. And I put the high in front of the value because every human being has value already. One buzzword that I somewhat have a love-hate relationship in the entrepreneurial space is the word value, because people sometimes like to say, hey, I want to add value to your listeners. And I'm like, dude, my listeners are already valuable as they are. And
Mhm.
they can increase their skill base and their wealth and whatnot. And especially since we all are living human beings with souls. So we all have value already. And then there's also the other part of that where there may be people who have contacts that you may be looking for to up your game. And heck, even a powerful question that anyone can start adopting today after listening to this wonderful show is asking someone, who do you know that I should know? And asking someone that question can lead you in so many different ways, because as a wise man said, because I forgot his name, life moves at the speed of your relationships. And if you have the relationships with the right people, not just those in your immediate inner circle, but also those especially you may have connected with every now and then, it may lead to that advancement that you're seeking to have in your life. So just to recap, the communication, financial literacy, and networking, especially with high value people.
Yeah, beautiful. And why do they need these messages particularly? Do you find?
Oh yeah, it's because we don't receive it in school. Like that's the thing.
Right? Yeah.
I think high school like that. I don't think there's any, especially in the U.S. of A. There's no classes for public speaking. You really don't get that. And I was lucky enough to get it my senior year in high school. Like financial literacy. Like there is so much debt in the world, and bad debt, not the good debt, especially in the U.S. of A. where we get into too many darn wars and we have so much darn debt because of it. God, I wish you would stop trying to be the police of Earth. That's a whole nother podcast on the situation and all these people knocking on the door. But those things is because it's something that needs to be taught that isn't taught. And heck, even another book recommendation on top of Crappy to Happy, Going North, Stay the Course, and The Biology of Belief is a classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I'm sure people have seen that on lists before, and when one of my buddies back in high school actually mentioned that book, it wasn't until years later when I finally got why he was talking about that book, because there's so many things that still apply to what we deal with today. Like that book is at least 80 plus years old, and it's still applicable to how human behavior is today. So definitely check that out like a library book while continuing on Jayne's magical journey. Because if I'm not mistaken, you got a book of your own coming out soon, don't you, Doctor?
Oh my, yes. It's called Jayne's Empowered Handbook. And it just, I found as a doctor that I wanted to empower people with knowledge and teach them. And so it teaches about the 12 cell salts, which are very easy to use and can be used for almost anything toward health, and 17 homeopathic remedies and how to use them, which is kind of the tricky part. So I really taught people what to listen to, how to listen to their body, when to repeat. So it's coming out in July. Thanks for asking. It's exciting.
Woohoo! Definitely got to have you on my show, promote you.
Okay, I love that. I've loved our time together, Dom. Is there anything you would leave, one more gem of you that you could leave with us?
Sure thing. Sure thing indeed. I'd have to say one thing is that you matter. You definitely matter. And we all need reminders of that. You matter. No matter where you are in the world, you definitely matter, because if you're alive and you're living and breathing, you definitely matter, because that pulse, that heartbeat, that breath that you still have in your body, you definitely matter. And it's your time to go out and do something with it, whether it's just going outside to breathe in more air, waving hi to that neighbor, heck, even helping out that friend, that colleague with that project. Realize that you matter and you are here for a reason. And if you know what that reason is, go out there and live out that reason every day of your life and help enough other people along the way.
Right? And make yourself a dare. Write a book.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Dom. It was really enjoyable. And you shared so much in your beautiful, brilliant you way. I loved it. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you too, Dr. Jayne. I appreciate you. I love what you do.
Thank you. And for everyone out there, don't forget, don't give away your power to anyone else. Be the creator of your own life. Spiral up, spiral out.